My name is Josh Lakin. I'm the Director of Business Insights and Analytics for CAA Club Group. I am thrilled to be here today talking to you about a topic I'm very excited to present called Moving Past the What, Harnessing the Power of First and Third-Party Data. So again, my name is Josh Lakin. I've been with CAA Club Group, or as many of you probably know us as CAA, the Canadian Automobile Association, for just over 7 years. I've had the privilege of working in many different areas in the organization, including within the marketing organization, as well as in operations and a few special projects. And I've been in this particular role for just over 1 year. It's been the most exciting and exhilarating role I've had, working with the role of analytics and insights, both from a database perspective and from a customer research and competitive intelligence perspective. So that's a little bit about me. So as I mentioned, I work for CAA, and almost everybody knows us. We're one of the most recognized and trusted brands in Canada for our amazing roadside assistance coming to rescue you on the side of the road if your car breaks down. And we offer so much more that many people aren't aware of, including insurance, home insurance, auto, travel insurance, specifically not doing a lot of that right now. But we have absolutely been growing in that area, including other things like life, health, and dental insurance. We have a full service travel agency in over 35 retail locations we have as CAA stores in South Central Ontario that include merchandise and attraction tickets and tour books and maps that you can get as a member, as well as an amazing CAA rewards program where you can earn CAA dollars and get instant savings at thousands of partners across our region. And so today specifically, I'm coming to you representing one of the CAA clubs. There are many CAA clubs in Canada. We're all kind of federated under a CAA national organization, but we run quite independently from one another. And so the CAA Club Group, as I introduced myself, is actually a conglomerate of a few different organizations, including 2 CAA clubs. CAA Manitoba, which represents all of Manitoba and provides all services for members there, and CAA South Central Ontario, which you can see here on a map in the shaded blue is our particular region. There are other clubs in Ontario, including CAA Niagara and CAA North and East Ontario, that between the 3 of us, we service all members in Ontario. So I come to you today representing CAA South Central Ontario, which you can see is zoomed in there. That represents everything kind of South Peterborough and south, as well as the Sault Ste. Marie area and some of the northern communities. But that's what I'm here primarily to talk to you about today, an opportunity to better understand our members within that market. So within CAA South Central Ontario, we had an objective that we really wanted to better understand our members. And specifically, we wanted to understand them so we can more effectively differentiate our marketing and be truly member-centric, not driven by what products we offer, but driven by the markets and the people and the members that we serve. And so what we did about 4 years ago is we created member segments, behavior segments. We considered over 1,000 variables that we were lucky enough to have access through many of our source systems about what members have done with us. And we've refined that list from 1,000 down to 900, down to 800, where we run variable clustering to identify groups of commonality that have distinct characteristics that differ between them. And from 1,000 variables, we got down to a list of reasonable number of variables in which then we profiled these groups to understand, okay, now that we have these groups, what do they look like as members? And then we profiled and profiled some more. We did a lot of rounds of profile. And what ended up happening was a group of segments that describe behavior with our internal first-party data. So this really describes how members interact with CAA today. It's wonderfully put together, it's very visual, and it's very rich with first-party data, absolutely. And the way they're used today primarily is in direct marketing programs. CAA is known for kind of our focus on direct marketing within our marketing mix, just because of our huge member base. We have over 2.2 million members. And so we know so much more about them than the average Ontarian. And so we should be using that to be more relevant, to be more targeted and personalized. And so we use these segments to apply to direct marketing. And this is an example of the 10 segments. These are, in fact, the names of the 10 segments I've created. You can see that the names are very creative, the pictures, these are very visual. And I'll just quickly show you that, for example, the insured segment. So I need to remind everybody, and it's very important to understand when you're dealing with segments, that across all of these, the members do all sorts of activities with us. Just because somebody's in one segment doesn't mean that they don't interact with CAA in a particular product that happens to define another segment. I'll give you an example. The insured. This segment is primarily defined by the variables of having home and auto insurance with us. And so almost everybody, if not everybody, has home and auto insurance with us in this segment. But if you look across the other 9 member segments, there are other members in them that have home and auto insurance. But perhaps that's not the defining characteristic. The Reward Me segment. These are people that are highly engaged in our CA rewards programs. Again, it's not to say that people are not engaged in our members are not engaged in our rewards segments in our rewards program in other segments, but they're primarily defined here as being very heavy users. Steadfast, for example, these are members that have been with us on average way more than average, where members happen to be with us on average about 10 to 11 years. And in Steadfast, you're looking at 17 or 18 years, nearly double the amount of time. And so they tend to be older, more established. And then the Newbies. The Newbies one is particularly, we're going to zoom in on that one today for our discussion, but the Newbies are primarily defined by being new to CAA. They're new members. They are within their first year. And so that's what defines them. So that's the unique one, because in no other of the 9 segments are there members in their first year. Those are all grouped together on purpose in the Newbies until we start gathering data about them, how they interact with us, and we can they're migrated through algorithms into one of the 9 others. So you can see we have these 10, and you know what? I can speak about them very knowledgeably, and I love to talk about them. But what we have is a bit of disparity, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You see here, each of these segments actually has some really beautiful visuals that go along that further define them as members. How many members fit in that? Do they have ACCR? ACCR is actually what we call it now. This is an older document. Auto renewal, right? Have they given us their credit card and authorized us to automatically charge it when their membership expires? How long they've been with us, their product usage, their age range, their value, their engagement, which are other internal models we built to measure someone's interaction and connection to our organization. So we have one of these for each group. And so, like I talked about them, we use them today. I'm setting up the today. It's very important we understand today so I can be most effective talking about some of the challenges and where we went with embryonics. So the segments today, as I mentioned, are used today in primarily communications. They help inform creative decisions when testing versions of direct mail. Or we can help select imagery based on demographics and behaviors we know about them from an internal perspective. But there's limitations. And those limitations, as we get more advanced as a marketing organization, become more real. And outside of their CAA characteristics, who are these as people, as Ontarians, as individuals that interact and buy things and live their life and our families, and who are they? We're lucky that we have about 1 in 3 Ontarians in our jurisdiction, in our market area of South Central Ontario, be members. That means 2/3 aren't. And that means we have to look at the people first before they're members. People are not born as CA members. As much as we might like to change that one day, they're not. And so we really are limited with this current segmentation of understanding the people as people, what they do, how they read things, and also how do they differ? So how do these segments differ from one another? So it's not just who they are, but what makes them unique and different from another segment that can help inform how we talk to them and what offers the positioning, the copy, the imagery, all that. And so what we really need, and what we started working with Environics is integrating the behavioral and marketing segments. So we have rich, amazing, I will stand by them any day, our behavioral segments. But what we found is it was difficult for our lines of business, our marketing professionals, to take this and to translate that into kind of tangible, actionable direction in what to do and what to do with this information. So instead, it tends to inform tactically more. And when you're making those decisions just based on tactically, each individual area is making tactical decisions that in the end creates confusion in the marketplace. Because these are members after all, and we should be coordinated efforts and understanding from the members' point of view what communications they're seeing from us. And so what the big value of Environics is we were able to take our behavioral and create marketing segments and integrate them. And so there's our first party data that we have that we stand behind, and we're very proud of. And what we did is we added third party data. And we particularly, we license, and you guys watching this all, we have all combinations of the ways we work with Environics. So we license PRIZM, Demostats, Social Values, and Optics by Vividata. And how do we use all of that to help build more of a persona of who these people are outside of being a CAA member? What that gives us is, linking back to the title of this presentation, moving past the what. It's less about what they do, and now we're talking about who these people are. What they do outside of CAA. Where they live, where else do they go, perhaps when they travel. We have access to now all that other data that layers on how these people just live and who they are, and some of their social values and what drives them intrinsically. This stuff we can't capture in our database. And also how to best reach them. That's something very actionable and tangible that we can provide to the business. It doesn't matter that these people just love our rewards programs. If we decide to send them all letters, but we find out that these people are incredibly connected into the digital realm, and we need to be focusing our marketing mix on that, that's insightful. And so all of that put together, all those standard who, what, where, why, I have a lot of why here, but when, kind of helps us to, number one, refine messaging and the creative to represent the target better than just what they do with CAA. We have a more holistic 360-degree view of the member. We can actually identify, and what we were able to do is identify some potential of saying, well, hold on, this actually percolates to the top here. We didn't think about that. It seems like there's actually an opportunity to grow this particular subsegment within, and to find and target lookalikes on the ground. And this helps us from acquisition or retention, and select the best media platform strategy, something very actionable that we just didn't have before. And I wanted to mention that my team's, one of our big mandates, business insights and analytics, is we bring together different areas of analytics, both traditional database analytics and looking at the members and their behavior, digital analytics and how people interact with their digital properties and their preferences kind of in the digital realm, and research, both first and secondary, primary and secondary research. And so our goal is to tell more of a holistic story, giving our clients, our internal clients, more value of that well-rounded story. And by integrating behavioral marketing segments, that is deliver on the value we hope to provide to our internal business and our internal marketing departments, so they can translate that into action. And so we've layered on PRIZM. So now we're going to go, we've given you the background, you understand some of the gaps. And now we're going to transition to what we did. And what we started with is layering on PRIZM. These are the 67 PRIZM segments that we know and love, and from Environics. And what we did is we essentially find out that there's only a subset of them that are relevant to our member base. It's not all of them. So we can start right there, not feeling overwhelmed at the fact that we need to look through the entire PRIZM segmentation, but let's find the ones that really make a difference. And so what you see here is a basic profile that Environics helps us run by looking at our member base. Starting simple, let's forget about our segments. Look at our member base and let's look at through the PRIZM lens. And you can see here that there's you know, that main vertical dark bar represents kind of the average, an index of 100. And you can see which areas over-index and which areas under-index. And we can very much see that there's very clear in our market PRIZM segments that over-index. And we can see we have upper and middle class households of all sizes, families with kids, mature households, young singles and couples. And that's kind of how you, if you kind of took boxes and you boxed off these areas, you would get kind of 4 or 5 kind of general ideas of who these people are. And then what we did is something really cool. We now started crossing reference. So let's look at our members of the base. And now let's look at how we categorize them and do some cross tabulation. And so what you see here is across the top, each column represents our different member segments, 10 of them. And along the left side or along the rows represents the PRIZM segmentation. And what we did is we looked at where these people are and which segment they're in. And well, that is what I just described to you. And then the colors represent, and what we're really looking for is those kind of, you know, those more reds and dark reds and oranges or yellows. I'm not the best with labeling colors, but on the right side of the heat map, being more hot, where you find those differences. And what you can see here from an overall is, in my mind, you step back, things don't look that different. Generally, things look the same as left to right. You have blue all the way across at the bottom, you have red and those oranges all the way at the top across. And if you look at the average CASCO, if you look at members and their footprints, which is kind of what we have, this extra bar, there's not much insight here. What we're saying is our members looked at through the lens of PRIZM and then divided up in our own 10 segments when compared to the overall Ontarian in our kind of footprint, looks the same. What can we do with this? And this is where we got stuck here. We did this analysis and we got stuck. However, where Environics was able to help is now let's actually look at each of these segments when compared to just members. And now we actually start seeing some insightful differences come true, where compared to the total, differences start standing out. We're looking at those whites and you don't see that story left to right. They're not all the same. And it also actually helps identify a non-target where we can remove some of these people, not to say we're very member-centric. Every member is important for us to communicate and build. But if you're looking at maximizing return and optimizing your marketing, let's focus on the areas that we think are, you know, you have the most amount of chance to reach your market and get a big, you know, a return on investment. Whatever that return might be, it's not always dollars. Sometimes it's just engagement. Sometimes it's just somebody signing up for an account or filling out a survey. So whatever that measure is, it's important to identify that. And so we have our priority PRIZM segments. And now what we're able to do is zoom in on our marketing segments and start clustering. And this is where Environics was able to now identify kind of areas: elite households, active families, mature households, diverse families, and diverse starter families. And those were those 5 areas that percolated across left to right, having at least some point of interest and insight in our 10 member segments. And then now we have the ability to look at our segments in 2 ways. First, let's start with our segments. And if we want to better appeal to them and find out who they're in, which was part of the objective, let's find out. So we actually have active families and diverse families with children in the Newbies segment. And now we're not looking at newbies as all just because somebody joined CAA doesn't make you all the same. And now we can actually offer a differentiated view within one of our segments, and we can start proving with evidence that within a segment you have subgroups, and that's very important value to add to our marketing department. So not everybody's looking at the member the same way. And we find out where they under index as well. We can also look things the other way, saying if we're now looking at elite households, which of our segments best represent elite households? And we have 4 of them that tend to percolate to the top. So if we were focusing strategically as an organization on elite households, and we were organized differently, or we had different strategies, we can now we can start from just the Ontarian perspective, or the average individual in our footprint, and we can find out which one of our segments best represents that. And so what we just have here is a summary of kind of where they over and under index from our 10 segments and our 5 identified kind of PRIZM clusters. So we can look at it, like I said, across from a marketing segment or from a behavioral segment to help identify people. And what we're going to do very quickly is show you the project we did with Newbies. We decided to start this off by using just the Newbies segment, where we just took one of our segments, one that was defined by a very consistent characteristic, which is that they're new. And what Environics was able to do is identify these subgroups within that allows us to see them very differently. And so what we can see here is within Newbies, we now have people that are in different geographic locations, middle-aged, diverse, for example, almost 66% of them have kids at home versus less than half for middle-aged trades families, visible minorities, household income, and so much more that allows us to see these groups differently within one of our segments where we traditionally would have just labeled them all the same. And that's pulled out one of them as well. And it allows us to see with plain English who these people are. So this is a wonderful document that Environics created, that this is a persona. It talks, this is Jane. She's a young working mother, lives with her husband and her son. Here's where she lives. This is about her. She lives close to work. She likes to commute. She plays sports. She makes one roadside call, so we can layer on her first party data. And how she consumes media, almost exclusively online. We should now take that information and differentiate our marketing strategies to not label all these newbies the same. And then what's amazing is now it's all backed up with data, with these rich appendices that allow you to see these groups in beautifully stunning visual ways to allow us to make decisions. And these are all the supporting. So I want to start concluding this. Two things. What did this allow us to do? So number one, it allowed us to provide this value to our membership marketing team, for example, that's significantly focused on first-year members. When somebody joins with CAA, that first year is critical to form that relationship, to demonstrate value, because they actually renew with us at the lowest rate. And so to take these personas on these Newbies members and now allow the marketing team to look at members in this group differently allows them to take more tangible action and relate to them better by being where they are and appealing to things that appeal to them. It also inspired deeper insights. So it's now the marketing teams are asking more questions about, okay, so now that we know that they tend to really leverage newspaper, which newspapers, and how do we get to them? And that's what we want. We want to start talking about really how to access these people. And it's also allowing us to view results in a new way. So when we go back and we understand kind of the results of a campaign, we can now layer on our PRIZM segments and our clusters and our sub-segments, our personas, to understand how personas behave differently. And so we've gone from first party to third party, back to first party, to allow us to kind of view things in both languages, third and first party. And like I said, it's allowing us to optimize communication channels and generally to be most relevant and most effective with communication. So what's important here are key learnings. Number one, we were able, as a kind of internal shared service, and I'm not sure how many people here represent a kind of a shared service internally, but we were able to offer an added value to our business as an internal service provider by creating these and working with Environics to create something that's tangible and useful to them, demonstrating our value as an internal service, much as Environics has demonstrated their value to us. So two, looking at things from a third-party lens, especially when you have a solid foundation of first party, can only offer more value and more insight, especially if your objectives were to be more actionable with what you have already, and to really add that next layer of where do we take this and how do we strategize against it. And the third key learning is getting away from the averages and finding ways, especially when you have segments that are large, that have hundreds of thousands of people in them. We have to find ways to help identify those differences. And Environics was able to work with us to help us look at things differently, to identify the differences and give us kind of a light, an inspiration with how we can apply these learnings. So I really thank you for your time today. I'm very excited to address any questions right now from the audience, and I wish you all a great day.